Basic Education Minister Angie Motshekga has just assured the nation that the National Senior Certificate can be trusted and it's all systems go for Matric exams. For some reaction on this, I'm joined by Mugwena Maluleke, who is with the South African Democratic Teachers Union. He's the General Secretary there. Mr. Maluleke, thank you so much for making time. The Education Department says it's all systems go from their side. Is it all systems go for the teachers?
Good day, Babu Manyatela, and thank you, and good day to your viewers at home. Yes, from the teachers' perspective, is that they have done everything that they were required to do from the love of their nation, but also as professionals, and therefore, its systems go all the way and so forth. Of course, we agree with the Minister of Basic Education in terms of what she has been addressing the nation about.
Yeah. One of the things that she addressed the nation about was the issue of overcrowding in schools, which saw some people not able to immediately return to daily timetabling after the hard COVID-19 lockdown. The minister now says they have developed a special program to address this issue as a matter of urgency. What do you think needs to be done to address this issue of overcrowding once and for all? Because it's a challenge that's been confronting us for decades now, and I wonder if you think there's political appetite to address it.
Well, I must indicate that we have lacked political appetite to address this particular overcrowding issue since 1994, because what we are seeing is austerity measures applied in education. Any nation, any country that wants development have got to invest in education, and never sees education as an expense, but our government has reduced education as one of those particular expenses, and therefore have lost the understanding that education is a liberatory tool, and therefore we need investment. And therefore that particular special project is going to fail unless the government takes a firm decision in terms of saying no austerity measures, no neoliberal measures in education, so that we are then able to address the unemployment, the poverty and inequalities in our country as directly related to the type of education that we have in our country, especially the resources.
Let's talk about the impact of load shedding. There are two practical papers that were written last week. The minister says both those papers went well despite the load shedding uncertainties. How concerned are you about the risks posed by load shedding?
Well, I must say thank you for that, because we are sitting here very much concerned about the ongoing load shedding, because clearly is that it has an impact on the time that our learners will be arriving at the centers where they are writing examination, especially the matriculants, because of the number of traffic lights that normally would not be working and causing heavy traffic. And we are appealing to our parents daily to adjust the time when their children will be leaving for examination. So it is a worrying factor for us. But secondly, it is that we need to understand that when they were writing this particular computer applied technology, they were impacted upon by load shedding, and therefore it's not about whether at the time it affected them they were able to stop and then resume the writing. It is about the emotion that the student has got to really be confronted with, the anxiety level that this particular load shedding is causing. They have got to prepare, they have got to revise, and therefore the 2.5 hours they lose when they are supposed to be working on their revision, it has an impact emotionally. And therefore, given the fact that they are coming from COVID conditions and they had to work extra time for that, they don't need anything that can cause that particular anxieties. Therefore, we are concerned about it. ESCOM has got to come to the party. Municipalities have got to come to the party.
Let's talk about irregularities that often occur during exam time. The minister has assured us that they have done everything possible to avoid a cheating scandal like we've seen previously. They've stepped up security across all points in the question paper chain. What are you saying to your teachers? Because they too must maintain that level of honesty and not participate in irregularities during the writing of these exams.
I want to agree with you that indeed the level of integrity and honesty is required from all of us, and we're calling upon our teachers who really have worked so hard not to allow any other person to really damage the integrity of this particular examination. They have got to also be our ears and our eyes as the students are writing. I would imagine, having not gone on holidays, on weekends, sacrificing time and denying your family the time and doing your work, and therefore something like an irregularity just spoil everything. You cannot be happy. You cannot be happy with yourself, and therefore we're calling upon them to also really make sure there's no group coping, that the student continue to be assisted, and therefore there must be no temptation. We know our teachers do their best. However, even if we can prepare, the problem is that in this country we have celebrated criminals and we have celebrated crime. And therefore, we have allowed our country to go into lawlessness. And therefore, there will be people who will be having some temptation of selling papers and misleading our students through WhatsApps and many other things. We are saying to the teachers and our students, do not be misled. Allow yourself to go through what you have learned. The teachers were there for you. They'll continue to be there for you.
Yeah. SADTU has made a call for communities to suspend their protests by protecting these exams. Are you expecting that some of the teachers may actually picket? There have been some suggestions that those that are not happy with that 3% that government decided to implement unilaterally may use this opportunity to express their unhappiness.
Well, I must indicate that we as the South African Democratic Teachers Union support SADTU in its call, and we supported Umwalusi when they have called upon the community to say, protect the future of your children. Do not use education as a tool of bargaining. Rather, use whatever you want, but leave the students to write, because this is an investment that our country is making, and we want to see the returns of this particular investment by dealing with inequalities, unemployment, and poverty. And South Africans, as part of SADTU, as call, we are calling upon them to heed to the call by SADTU. This is the first of its kind where we see SADTU as a civic movement calling upon the community to suspend protest action in protecting the future of our children. This we want to say we commend and we really support, because for the first time we are seeing organizations understanding the importance of education, and therefore understanding that any disruption of any sort in education, especially to our children, is going to cost even more years of struggle for us to deal with issues of skills and competencies that we require. And therefore, we do not anticipate from our side as the teachers that they will be picketing, because SADTU has not balloted our members. We have not declared any strike.
All right.
Thank you.
I want to get your thoughts on a recent case where some schools denied learners the right to sit for their NSC exams because they are pregnant. And this is despite the national policy on the prevention and management of learner pregnancy stating very clearly and expressly that, barring a learner from school on the grounds of pregnancy is discriminatory. I don't know if your members were involved, but is there a mismatch between what teachers understand to be the way to deal with these circumstances and what the Constitution says?
Well, I believe that there are some of these particular schools, in majority there will be private schools, that would deny learners to write or sit for the examination. That is discrimination. That is denying the learner the right to education. It is unconstitutional, and therefore the parents must not fold their arms. They must immediately approach the Department of Education. And if the Department of Education is not helping, they must not waste their time. They must call SADTU, and SADTU will come in terms of making sure that there is a court case against such a school that denies any learner to sit for an examination because they did not pay for their school fees. It's not the learner who pays school fees, is the parent, and there are laws in this particular country. We must not allow this lawlessness by the private school or even by public schools to apply something that is not in the law and then allow them to go to run away with murder. It should not be allowed. We must stop it, and therefore so that we can protect our children.
All right. Mugwena Maluleke, SADTU's General Secretary, thank you so much for making time for us on Newzroom Afrika this afternoon.